Welcome, Arun. Thank you for joining us today. Before we start our conversation on Open RAN and 5G, I would appreciate if you can take a few minutes to introduce yourself and Radisys.
Absolutely. It's great to be here and good to be talking to you. Radisys is a 37-year-old plus company that was founded in the US by a couple of engineers from Intel. And the principle when they founded the company was to focus on disaggregation and running telecom on open platforms. Now, over the years, what we have done is completely focused on that mission. And we have been able to make continuous progress over the years in bringing open platforms to the market, running software on it, and really enabling a number of different telecom workloads to run on these systems. And specifically in the case of disaggregation and open platform activities, we have been also engaged with a number of standards organizations. We work with a large swath of industry partners, and our products are now deployed in over 200 operator networks worldwide. So we're very excited about what the future holds for open networks. And again, great to be here talking to you.
Thank you, Arun, for the introduction. Let's start with our first question. How is Radisys enabling the adoption of Open RAN?
Yeah, so Radisys' role in creating, evangelizing, and adopting Open RAN is really unique. Because as a company, we focus on the principles of disaggregation. And that means that we create software that can run on multiple platforms. And in doing so, we are able to go after and different kinds of different ecosystem players in the market and enable them with software components, fully commercialized software integrated with hardware, or software integrated with open hardware components, many different combinations, which is what the industry wants. The industry wants diversity in supply chain. They want to be able to look at software alone, or they want to look at software and hardware together, or software on an open compute platform. And we are catering to all these varieties of Open RAN. The other aspect of Open RAN is also interoperability between the different components. So when we focus on in the case of 5G, for example, we focus on the DU and the CU, and we are completely interoperable on the 7.2 open fronthaul interface with a large number of open RU players. And this way, it allows us to really create the diversity in supply chain by focusing our strength on software and the underlying hardware platform and enabling different ORU vendors to come to the market.
Are there specific 5G use cases where Radisys has found success with Open RAN?
Absolutely. So when you look at the use cases, I want to cover it from two different angles. One is the kind of use cases that are being deployed, rolled out currently, and those primarily focus on fixed wireless access and hotspot fills, if you would call it that, right? So fixed wireless access is an interesting way to get Open RAN out into the market because you're not dealing with full mobility solutions. You're dealing with a use case that is fairly elegant and simple. It is about providing just broadband access to homes or to communities, etc. Right? And that is a good use of 5G technology because it can be competitive with moderate speed fiber networks or even of course copper networks, etc. The other one is about going into existing macro network deployments and catering to holes that might exist there. Now, as you know, a large chunk of the 5G deployments have been happening in the mid-band spectrum, where the coverage characteristics are very different from what you would get from a low-band spectrum. So if you go into a network where existing 4G technology is already there, the coverage holes that start to pop up, you can fill in those holes with some very, very targeted products. So these are two areas where we are working with. A couple of other things also is when we start to look at the total cost of ownership of systems, how can you come in with algorithms that can enable energy savings, for example? And these are things that we're working on with multiple industry partners. Now, one thing also to keep in mind, when we say 5G, we work on both FR1, which is the sub-6 band, and we also work on the millimeter wave band in FR2. And across all of these things, we have been able to demonstrate in multiple fora, whether it is Plugfest, or the 5G Challenge, for example, run by the NTIA, or with the Digital Catapult in the UK with Ofcom. We have put our software components in there so that people can start to touch and feel and experience how end-to-end interoperability actually works.
Agree with you, Arun. I think our research also shows that fixed wireless access and private networks are the two key areas where we have seen success with 5G. So my next question is, are there specific focus areas where Radisys is collaborating with industry partners?
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of segued into that nicely, talking about the indoor networks and private networks. That is a big area of focus for us. And it is not just for the sake of providing indoor networks in like a airport or a shopping mall or something like that, right? You want to really go in and provide networks where it makes a substantial difference to industrial operations, for example, right? Where there are a large number of machine-to-machine communications happening. So you need ultra-reliable communications, you need low latency networks, and you need them to be secure. So these kind of environments are very, very interesting for us. So this is a special area of focus for us. So you could call that industrial 5G. We've got a number of ecosystem partners that we're working with to enable those kind of solutions. Now, back to the core principle, when you go into environments like this, people want software that is elastic. People want software that is multi-platform capable, so that they're not tied to just one, one particular silicon vendor, for example. Yes. So that also brings in some nice combinations for us. Because we are a truly multi-platform software company. We can work with anybody, and we have different configurations at work. So that is a focus area, to be multi-platform, to enable industrial 5G networks. And another area that we're working with is to enable new players to come into the market. So we talked about fixed wireless earlier. Another class of players is neutral host players, right? So people who have access to different kind of fixed assets, whether it is city, street furniture, or other kinds of right-of-way access, etc. And those kind of people want to come in and build networks that can host multiple operators and provide coverage, and also addressing areas that might not be, for example, economically attractive for large-scale operators to go serve, but in a different kind of with a social purpose attached to it. There are some players who want to come in and build networks in areas that are underserved parts of different parts of the world, for example. So those are also areas where Open RAN kind of comes in, because it comes in with a mix and match capability. You're not locked into one vendor. So those are the kind of areas that we're focusing on at this time. Of course, we will get to the macro network deployment as well. But like you know, everybody wants a reference for deployment, right? So we've got to find ways to get into the market with some reference deployments, which is what we're doing.
So Arun, in this specific focus areas, who are the 5G ecosystem partners that you are working with?
Yeah, absolutely. So for many, many years, we have worked with Intel and the FlexRAN group that Intel has. And so we've had collaboration with them since the 3G days, and we've worked through 4G and now 5G as well. So we have a very strong partnership where we integrate our L2, L3 software with Intel's FlexRAN software to essentially create an x86-based implementation for the DU and the CU. So that is a very strong collaboration partner. On a similar line, we also have very strong collaboration with Qualcomm. So again, our L2, L3 software, working with Qualcomm's FSM series of chipsets, enable complete solutions for small cells, whether it is FR1 or FR2, indoor or outdoor. Our software is tested in a very early phase of joint development with Qualcomm to bring out those complete solutions. In addition, we work with other silicon players. For example, we have integrated with Fluido on the L1 side. We have integrated with Arraycom. We also work with NVIDIA on their aerial infrastructure. So there's a lot of other players that we work with to really make sure that the L2, L3 software is available in a highly flexible format that can work anywhere, right? Now, for option 6 integration, which is also an important piece, where we produce integrated outdoor small cells, we then work with Xilinx with their RF SoC that basically provides an option 6 interface to create these integrated small cells. And the compute platform for our software in that case is based on Intel. Now, I talked to you about Qualcomm. In the case of Qualcomm-based solutions, we actually run our software on the ARM and NXP ecosystem. So if you look at it, the software is truly multi-platform capable. It can run on a variety of compute environments. It can interface with a variety of L1 players. And this is how we really work across the ecosystem to say, look, this is the target deployment that is needed, right? And this is what it is in terms of coverage, in terms of power consumption, in terms of L1 preference, maybe, and performance characteristics. And this combination really comes out to be the best suited for that, which is really the promise of Open RAN. You want to be able to, mix and match and assemble a system that is still guaranteed to work well, but gives you a choice and not necessarily vendor lock-in.
So Arun, some of the key players in this ecosystem are the industry and standard organizations. So how does Radisys collaborate with industry standard organizations, and where does Radisys contribute?
Sure. See, one of the key principles, of course, in any wireless technology is 3GPP, and that is like table stakes. You've got to be in there, and you've got to be participating, you've got to be contributing. So we do that, and we do that well. But that's not enough, because for Open RAN, you need to be able to, participate in more things and really bring it to life. So the Small Cell Forum is one area where we have been very, very active to really industrialize and showcase to people that multiple combinations are possible. We have provided the NFAPI-based implementation for 5G. We've provided the earlier FAPI-based implementations. And we have been recognized as an award winner in many Small Cell Forum activities. TIP is another area where we've been involved in for many, many years as a leading contributor. We have participated in many plug fests that they conduct to showcase that end-to-end interoperability is possible. That's another standards organization. ONF is another area where we have been quite active. Because in another part of our company, we also work on disaggregated fixed broadband access with FTTX. So the collaboration with ONF has been strong for many years. On the Volta SIBA side, which is on the fixed broadband side, we actually contribute back to the community. We consume that software, and we've created hardened products that are actually now in commercial service. With ONF, we are one of the founding members of the SD-RAN initiative, which we have built together with other industry partners, Telecom, for example, and we have actually shown that in DT's lab in Berlin on how this end-to-end solution can actually work. The most important piece, of course, in Open RAN, ORAN is the ORAN Alliance, and of course we are a very strong player in there. We are a leading member of Working Group 8, and where we have a co-chair position along with another tier 1 OEM. And we also work in other working groups, such as Working Group 3, the RIC use cases, and of course the testing work group as well, where we work on the end-to-end use cases, etc. So test specifications, I mean. So ORAN Alliance and participating there is a very important thing. And one other thing I would like to mention here is, together with the Linux Foundation, we have been working on actually creating an open source DU. And this contribution we've been doing for probably about 3 years now, where we have a team that creates an open source version that is then available. And every now and then I run into people, mostly from universities, who have taken our open source DU version, and they'll go out and start playing with it and build some, private networks, experimental networks, etc. So that is also a founding principle of our company, right? That we want to be enabling not just open standards and open interoperability, but also open source to the largest extent possible. So, we're in this, and we're in this in a comprehensive manner.
Absolutely. That's a substantial contribution, Arun. So my final question, Arun, how do you see Radisys evolving in the next few years?
So Radisys is going to be a strong player in the emerging ecosystem of vendors. Radisys is going to be a unique player because of our ability to work across all kinds of broadband access networks, fixed access and wireless access. We have a very unique position in the market today with our embedded base in the media plane, where we are in 200 networks around the world. So it allows us to operate on what happens with the traffic that actually runs through these networks, right? And building edge use cases, so on and so forth. And when you put this all together, we actually have an initiative where we can enable end-to-end slicing and have it exposed through a development platform with a visual design tool, where you can actually assemble entire workflows on an end-to-end basis with just drag and drop, zero code kind of mechanism. So what we are going to bring to the market is a very compelling software story that is proven, that is field proven, that is scalable, that is multi-platform. If you want it as an appliance, we have our own hardware on which we can integrate it. We can also work with third-party hardware, and that is a refreshing approach to building networks. You get the flexibility that you want, right? And the software is, of course, customizable and usable. When you look at all of these things together and our commitment to open standards and open source, we believe we have a very strong future as the networks evolve, as networks proliferate across bands, go into all kinds of specialized use cases and environments. Our scalable software that runs on as few as 1.5 cores, all the way up to running on, for example, hyperscaler environments, is going to give us a very, very differentiated perspective going into the market. So I'm very hopeful for a very bright future.
Thank you, Arun, for taking time to talk to us and sharing your thoughts and insights on how Radisys is working within the ecosystem to shape the future of Open RAN and 5G. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and great to be here talking to you. And hopefully we'll talk to you again sometime, maybe in a year or so.
Arun. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.